hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 13.9, Fireworks Part 5. We are back.
Welcome back. What's the name of Arc 13? Azumha?
Yeah.
Nice. Alright.
Well, it'll be more like the Dawn Contest arc.
Can I just say, this first sentence is the funniest Aetheral Space sentence. it's like the most, kindergarten, playground Aetheral Space fight dialogue of all time. I love it. Your ability is nothing, said Mariloko. The enemy, that emaciated scarecrow, glared back across the luxurious room. Well, it used to be luxurious. Now blood drained into the carpet, and flies nibbled at the corpses. Now it was realistic. What? Wait, what?
He considers this more realistic than a nice room.
Okay.
This is twisted mind.
Talk big however you like, asshole! The enemy sneered. You still can't touch me, bitch!
Mariloko cocked his head. Huh? Sure I can. With heavy strides, he crossed the room, his form silhouetted by the cityscape through the wall-length window. The enemy tensed up, clearly expecting to teleport any second, but he did not. He stayed right where he was, even as Mariloko stopped right in front of him. Even as Mariloko extended a finger. Is this hide behind?
Yeah.
Even as Mariloko poked him in the chest. See, he said, you talk too much. If it's not an attack, I can touch you however I like. I could jerk you off if I felt like it. What is with...
He's so weird.
You act like this is oh, don't look at me, this guy. You wrote him!
Yeah, but I wrote him because that's his character. He's a weirdo.
I'm gonna start talking like this in my D&D campaign and saying it's what my character would do. Between this and Oblos, I feel like Tan has some, perhaps, English repression going on here.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Obviously, your characters are not you. I want to make that clear.
This guy's been on Twitter.
The enemy had heard enough. His familiar lunge towards Mariloko, fur parting to reveal a mouthful of fangs. It, too, was nothing. Wait, I'm confused. Is it literally a scarecrow, or is that just him talking about the lanky guy?
The lanky guy.
Okay. He's just being mean about it.
Also,
Unchained.
it's another character trait that he does not remember anyone's name. He's never referred to anyone else by name.
Only when he respects them. I do like that there are several characters in Aetheral Space whose way of thinking of you changes based on your respect level. Like fucking Ioneer.
Yeah.
What was his again? All caps is the best. Normal caps is you're good, and then lowercase is oh, he fucking hates you.
Yeah, you are the most hated person.
Imagine being hated by Ioneer Yggdrasil. You must be a real piece of shit for that to happen.
Yeah. Lucifer.
God, I miss Ioneer. The gravity manipulation was aimed at himself, not his enemy, and so no teleportation was triggered. Mariloko simply adjusted the pool of gravity on his own body. But how would his technique know that he was only aiming it on itself? Can it read its intent?
Yeah.
Okay. Shifting its orientation to the wall behind him and causing him to fall away from the attack. He kept the ability active only for a moment, and so his bare feet quickly thudded back down on the blood-soaked carpet. You wanted me to try and counterattack, he observed. That way you'd appear behind and be able to backstab me. That's nothing, too. So long as I don't attack you, there's nothing to worry about. This all could have been avoided, right? If he just didn't explain his power? Or is it a binding vow he has to explain it? The enemy snarled, throwing knives slipping out of his sleeves and into his grip. So, if you can't attack me, you're still screwed, Maroon! I know it's moron, but...
I like Maroon.
Maroon! Mariloko scowled. Don't yell, he grunted, reaching over to the table next to him. I'm a librarian! The idiots had laid out some refreshments as self-congratulations, like they'd actually accomplished something. Nibbles and drinks, champagne specifically. That would work. He snatched the bottle up with one hand, and with the other, he slapped away the hail of knives. They bounced off the skin of his palm like it was solid steel. Sparks leapt out from the points of contact. You're not strong enough to hurt me. Oh, he yawned. And if I don't attack you, you can't get cheap shots in. More knives slipped into the enemy's hands. He'll slip up eventually, he giggled, licking the blade. I have all the time in the world. Mariloko crossed the room, not walking towards the enemy, but instead towards the window. Is this just gonna ignore him for the rest of his life? They're gonna, do a montage of growing old together. But instead towards the window. He stood so close to it that it was his note that... He stood so close to it that his nose was touching the cold glass. Oh, is he about to attack, and then he's gonna teleport behind the window and fall? He could see it all. Azumha spread out like a feast covered in insects. It wasn't much. His fist lashed out again, shattering the window in a single aether-infused blow. Wind whipped through the penthouse. The enemy raised his hands to shield himself, but Mariloko accepted the fresh air gratefully, spreading his arms wide. He took a deep breath in through his nose. I see where this is going. "Don't think you can get away!" The enemy snarled. "We're hundreds of floors up!" "Yeah," Mariloko smirked, glancing back over his shoulder. "We are." He turned on the spot, right on the edge of the window. A single step back and he would plummet to his doom. That was fine, though. He wouldn't take that step back, and it wasn't important anyway. What was important was the fact that behind him, right now, was nothing but empty air. The enemy paled. He'd realized it, too. He took a step back as Mariloko raised the bottle of his champagne. Cork pointed towards the adversary's head. That unsightly, vicious grin spread across Mariloko's face once more. What makes him think that only violence is real and honest? Why is he like this?
His life.
What happened in his childhood that made him believe this?
Perhaps we'll get back into it. He's a major character.
Your ability's automatic, but I bet you can deactivate it. You're lucky. You get a choice. I feel like he should take the teleport, because at least he has a chance to recover from that if he's lucky, but no way he's surviving Mariloko's attack. The curtains billowed in the gale. "Wait!" he stopped. I love he stopped doing the stretching. "Wait!" The enemy murmured.
I want to apologize.
"You can die from the fall," Mariloko said steadily. "Wait!" The enemy screamed. Mariloko's grip tightened around the neck of the bottle. "Or you can die from this going right through your skull." The enemy turned and desperately, pathetically tried to flee, half running, half crawling in the instant afforded to him. "Wait!" he screeched. Azrael didn't need to be told to run. That Atoy Muzazi was too damn sharp, and the Sasquatch was too damn arrogant. Even if he tried to conceal some of his attacks, he'd had no reason to explain how his retaliation worked so thoroughly. Azrael knew it wasn't honor. The things he'd seen the Sasquatch do so happily would not permit that, so there was no explanation but cockiness. Azrael didn't know where his familiar got that from. Certainly not from him. He knew when to cut and run. Just as he was doing now. So when you make a construct that is sapient, I know these are, like, special because they, like, take abominations, but when you make a construct, because this is actually relevant to one of my guys, do you make their personality, or is it, like, randomized? Like, is that outside your control?
It's usually up to... In this case, it's sort of developed organically, so he sort of lets it, like, he gives it the basis to create one, and then whatever it is he gets, but there's been cases where a similar one is the cut virus ability, because that's as part of his conscious that he split off and put into its own little body.
Right, but that's different than making it, because that's just his own personality in, like, shards, right?
Yeah.
But could you, like, construct a personality
Absolutely.
the way you want? Interesting. Just as he was doing now. Azrael made his way through the crowds in the grand foyer of the Arena of the Absolute, surrounded on all sides by the masses who had come to see the opening ceremony. The whole gathering had become a festival of confusion. News was coming in of the assassination attempts on the Dawn contestants. Had the fights begun early? Was this some kind of terrorist attack? Nothing so grandiose. The Crimson Carnival had been dispatched to draw out the abilities of the other contestants, giving Nail the intelligence he needed to devise strategies against them. Victory was not expected. They were to see what the enemy was capable of, then flee. Most wouldn't do that, though. This profession attracted the craziest. But even if they lost some people, that was fine. It couldn't be helped. This was their biggest ever job. Biggest job ever, right?
No, it works two ways.
This was their biggest ever job, after all. As Azrael wormed his way into the crowd, he did his best to conceal himself behind the walls of humanity. The Sasquatch would be here soon. He couldn't afford to be out in the open when it rejoined his aether. It was very difficult to kill a guardian entity. They could die, of course, but the death would have to be completely instantaneous. If they were near death, even centimeters near it, they were programmed to dissipate into aether and return to their master. Taking damage like that would put most out of commission for a while, but they'd live to fight another. Would put most out of commission for a while, still, but they'd live to fight another day. I might just remove the still, I don't know. Usually that would be an advantage, but in a situation like this, Atoy Muzazi would be following the trail. It was the obvious course of action against an unseen enemy. Does this count for every Aether ability, like, that's re-recorded?
It's the Guardian Entity sort of template that does it, basically.
And I assume most constructs.
So yeah, you could, like, logic. Because you're, in the end you're making your own ability, you could make a Guardian Entity that doesn't do this, but they're going off, like, the template that Nail knows.
Right. And they would probably die for realsies.
Yeah, if they didn't do that.
He'd chased the Sasquatch all the way. Could you program it? Hear me out. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Actually, let me save this for the end. Just remind me. I'm gonna make a little thing. Question about Aether constructs. Alright, let me keep going. I don't want to make a stall. He chased the Sasquatch all the way up here, and once he'd confirmed Azrael is the user, he'd cut him down. Azrael didn't have the skills needed to take on the full moon one-on-one. Sweat ran down his forehead, and he quickly wiped it away. A toy Musashi would be here any second. The slightest anxiety could give him away. Still, he needed to think. He needed to think of something. Even if he concealed his nervousness, it wouldn't matter if Musashi saw the Sasquatch return to his Aether. There was one thing. He had no guarantee it would work, but according to the rules he'd been taught, according to the principles of a guardian entity, there was a shot. A shot in the dark, but a bullet fired all the same. It wasn't like he had anything to lose. Purple Aether crawled from around the corner. A second later, a toy Musashi appeared in pursuit, thrusters blazing from his heels so he looked like he was roller skating, and Azrael let loose an Aether ping. The Sasquatch will automatically... I forgot his voice. The Sasquatch will automatically return to my Aether, he thought, but that Aether doesn't need to be attached to me. Musashi braced himself as a nearly invisible wave of Aether brushed past him, his own Aether sparking in response. The purple trail he'd been following had suddenly vanished, as if it had been swallowed by the wave, completely gone. But doesn't his Aether ping have to come back to him to give him the information?
No.
Interesting. Damnation! Had he really lost them?
That's a variation of the Aether ping where you sort of, like, heartbeat it, where it comes in and out to do it lots of, like, rapidly times. But the standard is just, like, shoot it out in all directions.
Okay, and then you would just rechannel it in your body. Does that mean, though, for, like, a moment you would be undefended?
Exactly, yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's like domain expansion rules.
Yeah.
No, not yet. That had been an Aether ping, and one from very close by. Whoever had done that would still be here. He could still find them. The crowd backed away nervously from Musashi, forming a clearing in the sea of man. It was no surprise. He was still holding that ceremonial sword in his hand, after all, chipped and battered as it was, and he was a Dawn contestant. This half-face had been on the news for quite a while now. "Nobody move!" he barked, injecting Aether into his voice, making it booming and resonant. "There was an assassin among us!" Fearful murmurs ran through the crowd, and some people ignored Musashi's demand, breaking away and fleeing, but he ignored them. The assassins would not make themselves stand out from the crowd. If the majority were to remain here, so would they. Oh, but they've probably taken their scripts out, right? Oh, jeez, Musashi! Yeah. Take a selfie, Musashi! Musashi let out an Aether ping of his own, but found no response. No surprises there. No doubt this assassin was adept at Aether cloaking, but that could only do so much. An idea occurred to Musashi. All Aether cloaking did was force one's Aether not to reveal itself. The Aether was still there. It was still infused into the body. It would still reject outside influence. White Aether ran out of Musashi's legs and began to flow across the floor, surfing towards the crowd. He would attempt to... Oh, is it like infusing like just underneath the skin and like from the inside of your body?
Oh, no, so cloaking is just a technique where you basically like mask Aether with equivalent Aether. So whatever you do... To make it sort of invisible to Aether pings, you invest twice as much Aether into doing it.
Okay.
You like cancel itself out.
I see. He would attempt to create a thruster on each body his Aether made contact with. Not to cause harm, but merely to check if the user was protected. Could you also stop a ping by firing a ping back before it reaches you?
No.
Well, but because then there would be no Aether on your body for it to react to, right?
Yeah, but it's like for a split second, so like you would have to be perfectly timed.
Yeah,
and
what if you automate it?
The ping would still detect your Aether, like, going outwards from where your location, so they'd still have an idea of where you were.
Damn. Not to cause harm, but merely to check if the user was protected. As soon as he was unable to create a thruster, he would know for sure, but... "Hey, asshole!" roared the Sasquatch. "Don't you fucking move!" I'm trying to be like a posh butler, but it's also he's cursing, so I don't know how to do that.
He might have, like, dropped the butler thing now. He's being like, yeah!
"Hey, asshole!" roared the Sasquatch. "Don't you fucking move!"
But the enemy wouldn't just sit by and watch that happen. Azrael's hands shook, so he steeled them as much as he could. He couldn't risk anything right now. He still had a chance, but barely. No more mistakes could be permitted. Isn't Sasquatch injured? He had managed to bring out the Sasquatch again. With the damage it had sustained, he'd only been able to bring out the Guardian Entity's upper half, but that was fine. It protruded from the floor like a plant, immobile, but Azrael had chosen the spawn location well. In one hand it clutched the head of a child. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9, all pigtails and freckles, a perfect hostage. Even if Atoy Musashi was the sort who'd accept that sacrifice to destroy his enemy, he wouldn't do so in front of so many people. His reputation would die with the brat. "Deactivate your Aether!" the Sasquatch yelled, all civility forgotten as it jabbed a finger at Musashi. "Right now, or I kill this brat!" Slowly, Atoy Musashi turned his head. His gray eye glinted with death. Wait, why is one eye gray now? Or is that just his remaining eye?
That's his remaining guy.
Oh, so he's one-eyed?
Yeah, his other eye's artificial, it's like black.
Oh. "Hey!" the Sasquatch screamed, tightening its grip on the child just a tad. "Dig that wax out of your ears and listen up! I said—" Musashi interrupted. "It's fortunate," he murmured. "I thought your user might be a respectable sort of person, someone I would have second thoughts about. Your manners gave that impression too. But no. Oh, this you're just a piece of shit, aren't you?" JoJo Part 5. "I'm not kidding, she'll die!" Musashi took a step forward. The Sasquatch recoiled back. No! Get back right now, or I'll—" Atoy Musashi glared. "Cease your bleeding," he said. He had a plan, Azrael realized. Clearly he had a plan, but it didn't matter. Even if Musashi defeated the Sasquatch again and rescued that hostage, there'd still be panic and confusion. Panic and confusion Azrael could escape in. He could slip into the fleeing crowds. He could make a getaway. He could wait until another moment, a better moment, and make this bastard pay for— "Compass," Jamilu said solemnly. "The ability's user." The spear flew. In the instant before Musashi would have dispatched the Sasquatch himself, it suddenly shattered into aether, its final scream echoing through the atrium. The girl it had been holding up dropped down to the ground, quickly running to her parents, her cries of fear echoing just as much. It seemed someone had beaten him to the punch. Musashi let out a deep breath as he turned on his heel towards the sound he'd heard, the sound of a life ended. The Sasquatch's user hovered dead in the air, impaled from behind by the blade of a floating red spear. So when he died, the ability dropped?
Yeah.
As Musashi watched, the master of the spear stepped forward and pulled it from the young man's carcass, letting him drop down to the ground. The warrior, dark-skinned, dressed in a baggy green raincoat, spun the weapon in his hand, letting specks of blood spray onto the white floor. He looked Musashi up and down. "Atoy Musashi," he finally said, his gaze softening just a bit. "It looks like I misjudged you. We need to talk." What could they be talking about?
Oh.
So I had an idea. Could you theoretically, with Aether constructs, program it so when they're about to die, they go Aether, but instead of coming back to you, they hang there like fucking Elden Ring runes, and then you could grab it later?
You could, yeah, that's a possibility.
As long as no one camps the spawn. Interesting. Can you attack Aether itself when it's like that?
Not really. It'd be difficult. You could like have an ability that would do it, but you'd need to like. It's not standard. You wouldn't. It's not easy.
So what if I created a construct and gave it an ability where automatically every time it's about to be attacked, it turns into Aether and then comes back?
That could work.
That's so broken, though. How do you fight that if you can't hit Aether?
Well, it'll be a difficult ability to make because if it's automatic, you have to define.
I thought
what
automatic
attack
made
is,
it more
and
cost efficiency. Yeah,
you'll need to define all the possible scenarios.
Would touching it with Neverwire stop it?
Yeah.
Nice. Why is Neverwire able to stop Aether?
It interferes with it.
Because of what?
It interferes with it.
But how?
There's a frequency.
I see. Alright, let's see if there's any other lore questions. Sorry I kept interrupting.
Explanation. There's a frequency.
You introduced so many concepts I got really into like the world building of it. Sorry if that was like a little disruptive.
No problem.
But let's see. Aetheral Space.
Look at that, it's like big bro.
It doesn't look like there's any new questions, so I think that's it for today.
Fantastic. We've explained everything. There's nothing else to know.
Yeah, you guys are all out of questions.
They've graduated from the University of Aetheral Space.
Thank you guys for watching as always, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.